And this time, it's my car, a full-blown owner's review where I'll share my joys and grievances living with the Kona EV in a country like Nepal. And tune in till the end to see what upgrades I did and my costs over the years. So, back when I was considering an electric vehicle, fuel prices were skyrocketing, and maintenance on my old 2011 Polo 1.6 had accumulated. And in came the Hyundai Kona electric EV. And getting this car was definitely a risk. You barely saw any electric cars back in the day. I didn't know if I would be getting to Pokhara or Chitwan in one single charge from Kathmandu. I didn't know if I'd be stranded on the road on the way back from home one day. Range anxiety was real. Heck, I didn't even know if the ground clearance on this car was going to be enough for our bumpy, tattered roads. And how long would this car last? What about its spare parts, its maintenance, its charge, its battery degradation? We all know that the older a phone gets, the less juice it holds up, right? It's the same with these. I had so many of the same concerns as you did probably. But after extensive research online, after already sold models like the Nissan Leaf and other forums where previous Kona owners had already discussed about its lifespan, its maintenance, and all of that, my family jumped gun. And here we are, 5 years later, about 60,000 kilometers in. And this here is the Kona EV with a 39.2 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery. I know that's like tiny in comparison to today's bigger batteries. This car comes with a 100 kilowatt motor that produces, dare I say, class leading 395 Newton meters of torque, which means it can propel this car from 0 to 100 in just about 10 seconds. Oh, and it's also got a top speed of 175 kilometers per hour. Not that I've gotten anywhere close to it. And if you're curious about range, they sold me the car saying it would give about 305 kilometers WLTP estimate wise, but tune in to the end to figure out how much I actually get. And as for practicality, this car comes with a wheelbase of about 2.6 meters paired with a ground clearance of 160 mm. More thoughts on this later. But it comes with a usable boot space of 361 liters that can be expanded to 1,114 liters with the rear seats folded down in that traditional 60:40 ratio. More than enough for most of your larger cargo. And no, this car does not come with a frunk in the front nor a spare tire in the back, but do you know what I think was super useful in my years of using? Yep, the charger port is right at the front. It's a CCS Type 2 charger with the AC on top and the DC at the bottom. It's got light illuminating it so you know how to plug it in at night, and it's got a battery status bar on the side that blinks and tells you how much battery you have. And I personally use a 2.3 kilowatt grinding charger till today. I know it's time to upgrade. But that takes it a whopping 20 plus hours for a 0 to 100. Luckily though, 30 to 80% does happen overnight. And this car, I've been told, does accept up to 7.4 kilowatts of fast AC charging, taking about just around 10 hours to do a full charge. And I found out recently that it can do a max of 44 kilowatts of DC charging, but to be honest, I've never gotten it above 36 kilowatts till 80%, which is great still, because fear not, doing 20 to 80% on highway runs takes just about an hour. Anyway, that was a lot of numbers. Let me hop onto the driver's seat now and let's continue this talk. All right, foot on brake, shifting into gear, seat belt check. Always drive responsibly and safely. And yes, whoa, this car has a VESS, so an inbuilt virtual engine sound system that Hyundai has built. So damn it, where do I actually begin? Do I talk about my highs and lows and grievances, or do I talk about its pros and cons? Let me just ramble. So buckle up. Like, as for driving, you actually get 4 modes with a button down here that you can change between eco, comfort, and sport. And the long press will get you into Eco Plus, which is basically like a turtle mode where even AC is turned off, like it just did right now, just to maximize range. And let me tell you, 395 Newton meters of torque is too much. Like, even in eco mode, foot down, and I have, whoa, way too much of torque. Like, if I wasn't careful, I also get way too much of a wheel spin. I'll be honest with you on that. And so the majority of my driving is always on eco mode, never on comfort, and never on sports. The downside is that in eco mode, the steering wheel is like ridiculously light, super fun and convenient to use in city bumper to bumper traffic, having this much of a light steering wheel. In fact, I really think it's one of the lightest steering wheels out in the market right now. Not the best if you're used to like a heavier steering wheel. The one time I did switch out of eco mode was on the East-West highway early in the morning at like 6 in the morning when I was traveling back to Kathmandu, and I was hitting triple-digit speeds, and for the first time I felt that there wasn't enough of a pull in triple-digit speeds from eco mode, so then I switched to comfort. And the 4 disc brakes, of which the 2 front are ventilated for a car of that time, is more than adequate. Though there is a bit of a caveat. Unlike in newer EVs today, when I jam on the brakes and there is like a bumpy, patchy pitching in front, rough roading, your brake pedal, your ABS seems to like engage, disengage, which gives you like a very wompy sort of brake feel. It doesn't feel sturdy and linear as in most other modern cars. But 60,000 kilometers and I still haven't changed my brake pads. In fact, I just came out of servicing yesterday. The battery health was good. The brake pads were still in adequate condition according to my inspector. My mechanic was like, yeah, it should be good for another 50,000. Why? Because I predominantly use regenerative braking on this car. I'm not joking. Level 2, level 3 is a bit too much, and level 1 and level 0, where it's just coasting, is a bit too little. And I've completely stopped using the brake pedal and frictional braking unless absolutely needed. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna check my surroundings. Even if I'm in speed, I hold the left lever, the gear shift. The car does come to like a standstill. It is not one pedal driving. I have the left paddle shifter pressed, but the moment I let go after it, the car doesn't really come to a stop. So nifty trick, but I barely use this feature at the Kona. But you know what I've actually been changing though frequently? My AC filter. I seem to have some mice in the area I park, and they just love chewing the AC filter out. And I guess the one other gripe, and now coming to a con of the car, is definitely the ground clearance. When I bought it, it had about 160, so on the highways, even in the city to be honest, for adults, I also have a dog, our luggage, it would be scraping everywhere. Underground parkings, just rough road patches on the highway, it was really not a pleasurable thing. On top of that, I would also get wheel spin here and there because I wasn't used to the torque. It was a learning curve, definitely. So then about 2 years, the moment Hyundai Nepal brought in spacers to lift a suspension by 10 to 15 mm, I immediately did it. I'll talk to you about the costing later, but it was definitely great. Like, then suddenly city driving became tolerable, and in the highway with luggage and everything, it was decent. I still had to be careful, but it was doable. And that's what matters. And what about handling though? Well, saying that the car has a harder suspension is probably an understatement, because if you're sitting in the back, your tires are inflated really well to the recommended 36 and above psi. You're definitely going to feel some shaking, like sometimes even vigorous amounts of shaking back there. So I actually deflate my tire air pressure by a little to the low 30s when on the highway. And the spacers I added to increase ground clearance probably didn't help suspension and like comfort in the cabin too much anyway. So this car comes with a McPherson strut setup at the front and then a multi-link suspension setup at the back. And let me tell you, on longer bends on the highway though, this car is glued to the ground without body roll. It is so beautiful the way it corners at higher speeds, and it can just keep on going at the cost of your efficiency though. So it's definitely more performance oriented. I kid you not, my tires on this car, the stock Nexen tires, actually did a whopping 55,000 kilometers, 50 km on average daily in the city, and tons and tons of highway trips before it began to wear off to considerable degraded amounts. And then, well, I guess God does send his signals. I had a tire blowout. I was on the highway. There wasn't any tire shop nearby. The tire mobility kit failed. It didn't do much of a good job because it was more of a tire cut on the sidewall, not a hole on the top, the main part. And as a result, it was me with my family in the summer heat pumping in air every 500 meters for like 45 minutes. I'm not even kidding you. It was a horrible experience not having a spare tire. So I got to Pohara. I immediately went into Hyundai servicing after dropping off everyone and got the tire changed there and there. Which brings me to the other recent upgrade that I just talked about, and also today's sponsor. The remaining 3 tires are from Seat, and they are not EV specific tires, but rather just regular tires and also softer compound tires. So I got 3 tires for the price of 1 stock tire and a bit more. And oh my god, it has made the cabin cushioning and the handling so much easier. Like, it still hugs corners really awesome on higher speeds, but because the rubber compound is a bit softer, that translates to less back blowing potholes and everything when you're in like regular city driving. So if you are in the lookout for new shoes for your vehicle, check out Seat's dealership and workshop in Balkumari, Lalitpur, where they not only have a wide variety of both EV and non-EV tires, but also for professional and quick servicing. Let's jump on to the next section because I have more to say about these tires later. Alright, this is the Hyundai Kona exteriors, and this is built on a petrol hybrid platform, unlike the latest generation of Kona, which is a bespoke. So space isn't the best on the inside, but more on that later. And Hyundai's first generation EVs rolled out being very obviously EV, unlike today's cars that try to blend the line between an ICE and an EV. This one does not. So starting at the front, I have the bonnet open. You have your wiper washer fluids there, hydraulic fluids up on top, and then you have a plastic cover for your AC-DC converter, which is right below. A mini transformer, as I call it, more hydraulic fluids, coolant, a 12-volt battery, orange wires for high voltage wire. This orange pull tab is your emergency pull tab in case your charger flap at the front gets locked. And then you have a fuse box. So closing that, you have a very loud and proud Hyundai badge, followed by the charger port right up at the front. Up on top, right above the dash cam, your sensors for a bit of cruise controlling, lane centering, automatic headlights and wipers all live up there, by the way. And then on the side, you have your LED treatments for your lights. Well, most of them. Your DRL is LED, and so is your side light, and then your main headlight too. But this here, the fog lamp, the cornering lamp, is projector on mine. Newer models of this came with LED again, but it's just weird. This is a white light, this is a yellow light. I don't know what they did there. And then at the front, you have a tow hook, and then you have your AC opening radiator to take in cool air. So coming to the side, these are already changed tires to seat tires. Seat of the tire profile size 215/55 R17s. Yes, this is not an aero cap, but actually a 17-inch alloy rim. And it's definitely made with aerodynamics in mind, unlike today's more subtle sort of wheel covers. You have a blue drive badge there, but Hyundai Nepal really doesn't have that. It probably works abroad. Your wipers tucked in here. Another side light here. This is manual on my car, but newer models have this automatic as an option as well. And then a one-touch lock and unlock. I'm gonna quickly show you the doors. It's got a nice, heavy, much larger SUV feel like thud there. And then just coming back a bit, this is probably one of my favorite angles of the car. It's got like a low wide stance with curves that start off at the front, and then you have this plasticky highlighting around the car. This is the one stock tire I have in my car, and it is from a brand called Nexen. Again, you have like a very thick C-pillar with tiny trims, and the nice thing about this car is the back window is tinted black, and then the front is tinted a bit green. You can see the difference. I actually had a funny story where a police pulled me over and said, remove the tint on this car, and I said, no sir, these are factory. So I kid you not, he took out the keys, like he took out his keys, and then opened the door, and then rolled down the window and started picking on this, going like, you need to remove this. And I was like, I'll pay you the fine for tinted windows if you can pick this out. But obviously he couldn't. And so he let me go with a warning. This is on the highway a couple of years back. Newer car models do have a shark fin antenna, but mine just has the regular radio antenna. And then your headlights are at the back, more LED stuff treatment back here. I don't like this side light placement at the bottom because it's below your eye level. It should have just probably been here, I think. I don't think Nepali people have the habit of looking at side lights anyway, yet let alone down there. Your rear lights are also down there. A Kona badging. I'm very thankful that they have a rear wiper. You have a top mounted spoiler and stoplight. Yes, no tail bar, nothing of that, but I think this is fine. A bit of the badging on each side, and then you have 4 parking sensors at the back, and the only camera in my car is this reversing camera. All right, as for the interiors on this car, it's a big thick door, but one touch on your driver's window only. Lock buttons, your tweeters, door handle, mirror controls. No, these are not electronically foldable, as I told you. Your VESS button, traction control, your charger port lock, unlock, and then the cluster brightness. So do you want it bright or do you want it way dim? Anyway, on the sides are your electronic adjustment for seat, including lumbar support for the driver's side, which is really cool. And then getting into the car though, yes, I have utility mode on. I'll tell you more about it later. But the driver's seat, so this does have steering adjustment, both height and reach. Like if you push this in or pull this out. You can still lock it. And then on your left hand side are your media controls. So picking up, putting down, voice assistant, your mode. So input mode. I'm just gonna leave that there. And then on your right hand side are your menu controls. So that thing there can be changed all via the right hand side. It's a basic Hyundai control. Your cruise control, your menu toggling. Go again more into this later. And then you have paddle shifters on each side for regen. Speaking of stalks, on the left hand side are for your wiper, including the one at the back is for your rear. And then on your right hand side are your headlights and indicators. So all light indicators related. And this is the utility mode gauge. Power button here. I'll turn off the car and then turn on the car again. 100. Yeah, that was the startup animation. So pretty easy. This is eco mode. This is normal comfort mode, and then this is sports mode. That was my dash cam. All right, yeah, so back to eco mode. You do get a bit of animation there. And then coming to the center console though, this is very thick and wide. You have your gear selectors here, which was state of the art in its time. Buttons. Clearly you can see which two are the most used gears, the drive and the P. I barely use neutral. It looks brand new, and reverse decently. 2 cup holders, pretty large size. All your buttons for seat heating. 3 modes. And cooling on this side, your drive mode, your auto hold. And again, your passenger also gets a similar treatment of heated and cooled seats, along with 4-way movement of your seat. Electronic too, something that is not cost-cutted on this as compared to newer cars. And then there's a very deep glove storage box compartment here, along with another one here where I've kept my paper, books, and medicine and whatnot. And then bottle holder there, here, down here too. Clearly this car is like abundant in space, not just big spaces like this, but also for your knickknacks like down here. Also, I forgot to show you, but more knickknacks can fit in here. And then you have a wireless phone charger here. I know I'm rambling, sorry about that. And then Apple CarPlay is wired on this, so hence the cable. I think this is an 8-inch infotainment screen. Newer models have a 10-inch, I believe. This also, I believe, is a 10-inch diagonal driver's display. What I love about the car is you have buttons on all sides, including for your HVAC control. Lovely. So when you're like focused on the road and attentive, you just know where each of these buttons are, all static. Up on top though, again, no sunroof, but I really don't mind. You have your glass shades holder here, and then lights. Also on each side you have a mirror with a manual light. So the cool thing is once you fold it back up, it automatically turns off. Nifty smart design, Hyundai. I have the lights on and the mirror there. Then I close it and then it turns off. Really smart, right? And one of my favorite features again on this car is this auto dimming rear view mirror. There's no turning on or off button down there. It just automatically takes out the glare whenever headlights start in the night. And as for the back seat, I don't know if you caught the cabin insulation at the front when the door was closed. It was pretty damn good if you ask me. Again, same treatment of hard plastics and 1 soft touch point plastics. It's all leather and leatherette inside here, by the way. Really nice feeling. So the seat at the back is probably my least favorite, not because I've sat here the least. I'm always on the driver's seat or the front seat usually, but because remember I told you in the section before that this isn't a bespoke EV platform, it's a shared EV platform. So that means the battery storage space underneath the car isn't most efficiently utilized. Well, rather it is on the newer versions, but here you have a pretty tall angle for under thigh support. Probably not the best. I know newer cars have it better. I'm not saying it's not comfy and spacious, but leg room, knee room is fine. Footwell room, I think, is a bit compromised, especially if the driver's seat in front is at the bottom. Shoulder room is good, and headroom is pretty decent, even if you are 6 feet and above. What I also found missing again on this car is a rear AC vent or any USB ports at the back. I know it's a 5-6-year-old car now, but I feel like it's become the standard. Don't know why Hyundai missed that out. It does come with a rear armrest with 2 decently sized cup holders, and then it does have 2 ISOFIX points. So what was efficiency and range really like, and how much has this car cost me over the years? And well, I've been keeping notes. So before this tire change that I had with the stock Nexen tires, I legit got around 10-11 kilowatt hour for every 100 kilometer in city usage with AC, meaning I could travel around 9 to 10 kilometers for every unit of electricity. But I guess rolling resistance is a thing. It now averages around 11, 12, or even 13 kilowatt hour for every 100 kilometers. But again, the trade-off was that the cabin is so much comfier. And well, what about the costs? So I've actually kept like this very detailed Excel sheet of how many units of electricity every month the car has consumed, as well as the things that have changed over the course of 60,200 kilometers. And well, let me say that I have spent quite a handful, but also not as much as you would like to think. So just like in any car, every year or 2 or even 3, I have changed my wiper blades, which were like 2,000 to 3,000 each. And then there's also the annual AC filter change, or sometimes even in 6 months, depending on highway usage. And let me tell you, at the beginning though, this AC filter that came stock from Korea cost me 10,000 rupees for every filter. Nope. And I did that for a couple of years because I didn't know there were alternates. And then I found out one day that I could use a cheaper Creta air filter, and then I've been changing one every 6 to 8 months because a Creta air filter is less than 2,000. Oh yeah, one of my TPS sensors stopped working all of a sudden. Turns out if one of them doesn't work, none of the 4 get displayed on the dashboard. So that was another 15,000 down the gutter. And there was this one time, this electronic seat recliner got stuck, not on this position thankfully, that seat though got stuck in a recline position. And oh my god, I had a heart attack thinking I might as well have to change the entire damn seat, because come on, let's be for real. You wouldn't expect just a tiny part to be changed in these big, complicated, ventilated, heated, electronically adjustable seats, do you? Luckily though, Hyundai came in clutch, and it was a 3,000 replacement. There was some sort of switch locker breaker that had broken. Oh, and I've also added these cheap 2,000 to 3,000 rupee worth window visors so that rain wouldn't seep in. Of course, the height raisers, the spacers in the suspension were, I think it was 15,000, and it was a half-day setup where the ground clearance was boosted. And then of course there's one Nexen stock tire costing nearly 20,000, and then the remaining 3 seat tires cost around 24 or 25,000 in total. So of course, new shoes. And coming to the more major components, well, the batteries have been changed on this car. Spoiler alert, I had to change the 12-volt battery after lockdown. I guess it just drained out itself because it wasn't really being used a lot. I don't really blame it. That was around 10,000-ish. And then the bigger battery though, that's a funny story. So I had given my car for servicing. It was around 38 to 40,000 kilometers, I think. And usually I drop it off after work in the first opening business hour at like 9:30, 10 a.m. And I usually have it back with me over lunch break around 12 or 1. It's usually a phone call saying, hey, we're done with your car. Please come pick it up, pay the bill. But this day I got a phone call instead in the middle of the day going, hey, so your car, the VIN, vehicle information number, the chassis number, the engine number matches. We need to replace your battery. And I was like, oh shit, what battery? I just changed the 12-volt battery a year prior. And they're like, no, this is the big battery. And I was like, uh-oh, that's my only primary family car and I haven't made any prior arrangements. How many days is it going to take? Like, is it going to be stuck for a week at the garage? And to my luck, the response was very prompt saying, no sir, we're just going to take it for a couple of hours. We promise that you'll have your car back by the end of the day. And that was it. I spent the rest of the day in anxiety that something could go wrong and the car had to be kept at the showroom for an additional couple of days. But I got a call at the end of the day going, hey, your battery's been changed. It's a completely new battery. Done completely out of warranty. We've taken the old battery away. Come collect your car. And I was like, what? Done already? So then I come into my car. My battery had degraded to about 95% battery health, SOH. 40,000 kilometers in, I'm back to getting a new battery at 100% battery health. My range is back to like, of course, I'm talking about the guessometer, not the actual range. On a full charge, it was showing about 342. It was back to being like 378. Thanks, Hyundai. Like, I really appreciated that. So even if I have an old car today on the outside, I know the insides are new, and so I just don't have a problem with changing this car at the moment. But I do want to point out that there is a problem that has come up with these Konas, and I know it's not just mine because I've had friends and other family members talk about the same issue, and that is the fact that every year the AC gas needs refilling. Apparently there's some tiny component in the dashboard that costs 40 to 50,000 as per my last conversation, where the entire dashboard needs to be removed, and it's almost like a 4 or 5 day process where this tiny component compressor needs to be completely refitted. Not under warranty, unfortunately. So what I do is every year I take my car in the summer for a AC gas refill, which is around 8,000, but I've also heard they do it for a lot cheaper outside, so I'm probably going to be searching for that option in this coming year. And well, this car of mine, it's a family car, so I'm not the only one driving it. My dad does, my sister does too. So it travels anywhere between a minimum of 25 kilometers a day to a maximum of, I don't know, 124 kilometers a day. I posted it on my story the other day on Instagram. And people were shocked, going like, bro, you have a taxi, not a private car. And I was like, I know, right? But even so, let's say an average of 50 kilometers a day, my electricity bill has been anywhere around 2,500 to 4,000 rupees, depending on highway runs and the extra charges I need if I have AC or heating high. I also tend to use the car without AC and heating on regular days like right now. Clean air, not too hot, not too cold. I don't mind having the windows down. I can't imagine what my bill would have been like had I still been driving an ICE. And overall, even if this was one of Hyundai's first EVs in the Nepali market, I think it has definitely proved its potential. We're now at a point where we're almost suffocated on a lot everything has with features. Like, I'm not kidding. It's features galore. 360 camera, infotainment screens that tilt in angles, beeps, bongs, ADAS sensors, everything. But here's the funny part. I've actually read comments in my reviews saying I'm actually going to buy this car over that car because I do not need these features. You'd have never thought that, right? I didn't. Apparently, when a car has excessive opulent amount of features, a lot of people begin to opt out, going like, that's actually a liability. If in case it stops functioning, how much is it gonna cost me? Is it repairable or does it have to be replaced? The age-old question. So sure, I do miss some things like a 360-degree camera, some of the ADAS level 2 features, and definitely more on the ground clearance. But check out all the dexterity in the cabin. AC on, AC off. I can change between my home and my other layouts. I have my media navigation here. I have my regen changing right there. And then all my gear buttons, my seat ventilation cooling down here. Like, what more do you really need? And come on, like, this car has got a tiny 39.2 kilowatt hour battery. Heck, even the tiny Leap Motor T03 comes with a 37 kilowatt hour battery. And if you go into a bigger car, even the newer generation electric from Hyundai, the Creta EV, comes with a minimum of 44 kilowatt hour, and a smaller hatchback from BYD, the Dolphin, has a 42. By the way, if you are curious about range, what I've been getting with very efficient driving and everything, I have been getting anywhere around 300 to 320 of actual driving in the city. With the AC and all, it's probably going to be less than 300, but the lowest I've gotten till date, which was high AC consumption in the highway, full luggage load, was about 250 or 260 kilometers. But on the most, without AC and everything in city, I have happily gotten 310, 320. So from a 39 kilowatt hour battery, right? Pretty nifty. So don't you think this car was worth it? Anyway, that's been me for this review of the Kona EV and my personal experience over the years of achieving 60,000 kilometers. Let me know if you have any questions or comments on my breakdown. I know this was more of a monotonous, detailed sort of review video, but I thought I'd share all the details and keep it transparent. Anyway, I'll see you on the next review. Peace.